You're right, Smudge, you need to move, mate.
Oh, that's not fun. Hi, that's me, and this is Triforce Trends. You might be wondering what exactly isn't fun. Well, that was a shot of whiskey. Now I hear you asking, why is my local Zelda duper drinking on a Discord call with another local Zelda duper? Well, that goes back to a few weeks before this call. Being a Zelda duper can be tricky when there isn't a new Zelda game out yet. Trailers can provide ideas for a little while, but without that big game being out, the idea list can run dry fairly quickly. We brainstormed some ideas, and in the most European or British fashion ever, an idea we wanted to do was get drunk and discuss Zelda, inspired by the amazing PBG Drunk Explaining Majora's Mask video. We did this across 2 nights in a row to make a video for each channel. Definitely not just an excuse to get drunk. I'll leave a link to the video on his channel down below. But now, sit back, be sure to go and grab yourself a snack or drink, and enjoy, or try to enjoy, myself and Triforce Trends speculating on the story of Tears of the Kingdom. But drunk, here we go. Yeah, that's the thing with these ones. It's kind of like there's not. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, to be honest.
True.
Yeah. Little fun wordplay. To open this discussion, how about we talk about the opening of the game and speculating on the story?
Slaps.
I'm not having it. I'm not having it. So, Tears of the Kingdom is a complete open book, essentially, in terms of the story. We don't know an awful lot. There's not much you can confirm from what we've seen, but we can speculate on the story, and a good place to begin would be the opening of the game, which in my opinion is actually one of the most mysterious parts of the story, just because there's so many different ways the game could actually open. We don't know if it opens with Link and Zelda down at Ganondorf like we seen in the very first trailer back in 2019. For all we know, it starts in the Sky Islands, and that Ganondorf stuff is a flashback of some kind. It's already happened. For all we know, we start in Hyrule, like how Breath of the Wild ended. But yeah, the opening of the game's probably, story-wise, one of the biggest mysteries. Forget Sky Islands, forget all the other shenanigans going on. The opening of the game is just, it's completely mysterious. I personally think we're gonna start underground. It's better. I've chopped and changed on this. The one thing I'm certain on is I don't think we're gonna instantly start in the sky. I think maybe gameplay-wise we might start in the sky, but I think the game is gonna open with us underground, and all that is going on. The whole awakening Ganondorf and all that.
Yeah, I definitely, I think I agree. With the underground stuff, it's really cool. The thing is, the game is it's in a weird place because it has to follow Breath of the Wild story, where they kind of ended it with the Varuta thing, and everyone's like, well, what? So what happened there? Then I feel like we know to an extent that what's happening now in game, in the underground at least, is happening way after the fact because of Zelda's cut hair and just a few other things. Could there be a montage of like what happened with the Varuta and stuff? Maybe, but it doesn't really fit a Zelda game to me personally.
Yeah.
I could see them maybe talking about it and being like, well, we went to Varuta, then this thing happened, or maybe it's in like a diary or something. I don't know. Maybe we go to see Zelda's diary again, and it's you know.
I don't feel like it's gonna be hugely looked on in Tears of the Kingdom. I feel like I feel like they probably did have a sequel in mind somewhat when they did that ending of Breath of the Wild, but I feel like it was mostly just a cliffhanger for cliffhanger's sake, so that they're not ending the book, so to say. They're just leaving it open. I don't think it necessarily will continue from that. It was a fun idea at first. I think it was discussed a lot back in like 2019, 2021, but I think the more and more we've seen, the more and more it kind of looks like that Varuta thing is going to be irrelevant. I feel like there would have been a hint of it by now, if that was going to have something to do with the opening. But since the first trailer, all we've seen is just more of the new stuff. Not really much on how Breath of the Wild ended at all. Everything seems to be after, so yeah, I don't think the Varuta stuff's going to be relevant.
Yeah, I definitely think starting up in the underground, I pretty much agree with you. I think it's really hard because I definitely think the big first open area is going to be those islands that we keep seeing in the trailers, the islands that the pyramid ones.
yeah.
I think those islands are probably going to be the first ones in the game, and I think that pyramid is going to serve as the first dungeon, and it's what we're seeing. And it's obviously with Breath of the Wild, we saw the 4 shrines. I've repeated this so much in my videos, so I'm going to try and keep it brief. But in Breath of the Wild, you have like the 4 shrines that are brand new, and we haven't gone through a shrine before, so it gives us like a layout of what shrines are, gives us all of our items, and then that's it. With this, obviously we can't see all of the islands by the looks of it. There's more like to the side of the pyramid on both sides. I kind of think the dungeon is going to serve as like the pyramid, is going to serve as like a big dungeon that's used to showcase more new stuff rather than showing off stuff that we've seen in the past already in Breath of the Wild's world.
Like
but in terms of but in terms of story, I definitely think we start off in like a linear area in the underground. At least I hope so, because I'd like to be able to play up to the point where everything happens with Zelda. Whether that means Zelda's like walking around, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of always that's the problem with starting in the underground. You have to start with Zelda. Then you have to start with Zelda being with you, which means you need a CPU walking along with you, which I guess isn't part of the story, I guess, but it's kind of hard to say. I mean, I guess technically that whole opening underground thing could be one big cutscene to open the game, but I don't know if I see them actually doing that. I don't know if I see them opening the game with a full cutscene to that degree. It's an idea that's been thrown around, but I am on board with it being some form of a playable segment to kick the game off. At the minute, I think I'm with you on that point, to be fair.
Yeah.
I
have a hard time telling if it's wishful thinking or actually accurate, because like I really want that to be the case, and I've kind of manifested it into I hope that is actually the case.
I'm a little bit scared because like the Nintendo account not like even mentioning caves. Dude, it's a little bit scary because they've definitely teased it now. So it's like, are they a big part or are they not really? The
thing is, I've seen like, I mean, obviously, I think we've talked about the tweets a few times, but I've seen a lot of like replies to the tweets saying like, oh, the underground isn't going to be a part of it. And I'm just like, it clearly is going to be something. It's just the degree of how big it is kind of in question. I mean, there's official artwork of Zelda with a torch, but like, is that just representing what we've seen in the 2019 trailer? Or does that actually represent some sort of exploration? The biggest piece of hope, or hopium, I've got right now is the mining shot with the bokoblins, just because of how big that shot looked. That's the thing giving me the biggest hope. Because that's clearly not where Ganondorf is, from what we saw in the 2019 trailer, and it's clearly not like some of the other shots, but it's massive. So that's the only thing, or that's the main thing giving me hope with the underground being some sort of big playable segment. Yeah,
I definitely agree.
Nice.
But I do hope the Skylands, like story-wise, since, you know, we're on story.
Oh yeah, story.
Story-wise, I think we are going to start out in the underground, go up to the Skylands, Maybe wake up with someone like an Impa. Not Impa herself, but like someone like an Impa talking to us, telling us. Like telling us like what the arm is, what's going on with it, and then what's happened since you blacked out or since the sky, because obviously a lot's happened.
Yeah, and in a way that would kind of parallel Breath of the Wild, with like Link waking up and basically being told and discovering what's happened. I feel like it could be a combination of that in Tears of the Kingdom. Like you said, there could be a figure saying this is what's happened, similar to how we hear like Zelda's voice and talk to the old man.
Yeah.
And then just over the course of the story, we actually learn what's happened. I feel like it could be something similar to that, just because it works for how open world the game looks to be, opposed to like if the game was fully linear or something. But,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's kind of how I see the opening of the game going.
Yeah, me too.
Going forward into the game after the opening, the next kind of point I want to go to is just it's more of a general point, but the story for Tears of the Kingdom, going off the 4 trailers we have so far, and I'm going to include that delay announcement clip as well, just because it's cool. Going off everything we've seen, the story feels like it's going to be on a whole different level compared to Breath of the Wild. Mainly in the sense that it's going to be an active story, compared to Breath of the Wild's... Well, it did have its own active story, but the main chunk of it already happened 100 years ago. Breath of the Wild story would have worked so well if the active one was just as big.
Yeah.
Tears of the Kingdom, I think, is going to sort that out, and it's going to have a massive active story. And from what we've seen, it looks like it's going to be crazy. And that's just from what we've seen. There's going to be tons more in the actual game. More than just the scans we've seen so far will be like 10 times what we've seen probably. Everything in Hyrule, hopefully underground as well. It just looks like it's going to be huge and mainly active. That's the thing I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, the problem is for me with the story of Breath of the Wild is the active story that you actually play through with like the new champions, and like, you know, you got like your Teba, your Nobo being drunk and trying to remember all these names is really hard. Your Riju, yeah, that one, and your
Sidon.
Oh my god, how did I forget Sidon? Okay, I'm sorry.
Cancelled by the Sidon fans.
But I think the problem with that was that it also paralleled exactly what happened with the champions however many years ago, and you've already seen that story play out by that point, more than likely.
Yeah, it's like a carbon copy.
Yeah, so it's hard to really like be like, oh, this is so cool, when it's like you're just playing through what happened to Link 100 years ago, and it's just the same. And then it's just, the thing is as well, with like, especially with like Teba, however.
I say Teba.
Teba. Right. The problem is, especially with him, but I also think not so much with Riju or Yonobo, but kind of with Sidon as well, you don't spend enough time with them. Dude, the thing is, like, Sidon, he's like an active part of his village, and like, you know, he's around. Like, the first time you go to Zora's Domain, it's like, well, he's pretty much running with you the whole way. Sidon is.
Yeah.
But then, you know, Yonobo, he's with you all the way through the climbing Death Mountain quest. And then Riju is like a big presence in Gerudo Town. Teba especially is like, he's over at the flight range, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, he's nowhere near the village. He's not an active, real big part. The thing is, I hate saying this as well, because Teba is my favorite. Rivali is my favorite as well. But it's true that there just wasn't enough of an active story going on, and I think Teba is a perfect example of something that is like, you get 10 minutes with him, he flies you up into the sky, you shoot some things, and then you never see him again.
Yeah, that is a pretty good summary of the problem with it, really. It tries to be active, when in reality it's just repeating what we're actively being told. It would have worked well if it was something different, but it is essentially just repeating it. And yeah, Tears of the Kingdom, like, it doesn't feel like it has any of that going on. It feels like it is going to be very focused on what's currently happening and just that. I mean, there might be some sort of, like, the story's a reaction of something that's happened, like activating Ganondorf, so to say. But it feels like what we're going to be playing is going to be learned as we go fully. Like, there's not going to be any indication. Whereas in Breath of the Wild, there was an indication, because you started to pick up eventually, like, oh, we're just doing basically what already happened, but the new generation. So.
Yeah, I think Breath of the Wild story... Oh no, Tears of the Kingdom story, sorry, is going to be just so much better. Just down to the fact that, like, you know, with the final trailer for Breath of the Wild, the one everyone loves.
Yeah, is that the one that starts with the water?
Yeah.
Or is it the one that starts on the grass?
The one that starts on the water, and I think it's looking up at Lolin.
Yeah, another one.
Yeah. That trailer is it's got a lot of story focus. But you can kind of tell it's not going to happen as the story's, like, progressing. With what we've seen so far at Tears of the Kingdom, the problem is, we could say all this. The story could occur, beginning, end. Nothing in the middle, no memories, no cutscenes. That could literally be it. I don't see that happening because of the delay, actually. There seems to be, like, you know, cutscenes with that little orb. Maybe, you know, that's Zelda, or maybe it's the end of, like, a dungeon or whatever, but it's definitely a cutscene of some description. If there's a lot of dungeons in the game, which the Tears seem to be suggesting, then, yeah, we'll see a lot of cutscenes. But it's a weird one, but I definitely think the story looks better than Tears of the Breath of the Wild, but I don't know if it will actually be better, because the thing is, very quick aside, it's only going to take a minute. I don't think Breath of the Wild story was bad at all. I think it was actually one of the best in the entire series, but it just wasn't done in active time. Like, I think Age of Calamity story is really good up until a certain
that's
point.
Like an insanely active way to put it. That, like, the story itself, if you just isolate the story, it's like 10 out of 10 incredible. Yeah. It's just how it was presented was done slightly wrong.
Yeah.
That's basically that's
agree.
how I see it.
Yeah. Agreed. Next point.
Next point. Next point. My eyes can't read. Next point. The mysterious figure seen in, I believe, the third trailer, the beginning of the third trailer. I say figure, I guess the more accurate term would be depiction, carving, whatever you want to call it. I'll put it on screen right now. Classic little YouTuber move there. That figure, basically, that is, or they are, he, she, they, we don't know, is going to be, presumably, a very big part of the story. It's completely mysterious as to who they are right now, what their role is, but the fact that that trailer opened with carvings of them shows that that's going to be a huge part of the game. Like, all the other carvings shown there also kind of indicated some sort of large, significant event, and the fact that that figure was highlighted in their, not just multiple shots, but their own shot as well, with 7 tears around them, or tears.
And then, what's it called, at the end as well, with Zelda, linking hands.
Wait, which trailer is it? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you got it.
Put that one on screen too. Yeah, at the end, you see Zelda, or who's like 99% Zelda.
I mean, I can't.
It's obvious.
I mean, we're drunk. I don't think people can really blame us.
They're like holding hands at the end.
Yeah.
So clearly that person's got some significance to the story. Perhaps in the fourth trailer, when Zelda's saying, I believe it's "lend them your power" as like going down, that she's actually speaking to whoever that mysterious figure is. That's the way I interpreted that, because I don't know who else she's going to be talking to. Perhaps it could be a prey to the goddess Hylia, but I actually think it's going to be whoever that figure is, who if you connect some dots, there's a mysterious figure, there's a mysterious hand. In my mind, gotta be one of the same, or at least in some way.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm still on the conspiracy theory that it's the old hero's hand or something like that. 1,000 years ago.
Idea.
I do love that
idea
theory.
so much. I want it to be the case, but I'm 50-50.
Thing is, I really do want it to be the case. I don't know if it's just just hope. Having a new thing not be linked to anything in the past.
Yeah.
I'd like if it was linked to something in the past. Just have some sort of continuity. Just because, like the open world is going to have continuity. Why can't the story? Which is also why I hope the champions have some amount of, like, a role.
Yeah.
Because,
definitely.
I mean, having Teba, Yonobo, Riju, Sidon, having all of those together, alive.
Yeah.
They're not going to do nothing. So are they just, like, protecting their villages, or what?
Yeah, they've definitely got to have some sort of role. I think it will be related into their villages. In a weird way, oddly similar to how in Twilight Princess you have to save certain regions from the Twilight by getting I don't know what they're called, the little bugs. They glow.
The
something of light.
Is
it Tears of Light?
Yeah, I think it is, because it's a tier vessel, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
Those things. And like you said, the region. I think there's going to be something kind of similar to that, but on a much larger scale and more in relation to whatever's going on with that particular settlement.
Yeah, I think we went off the figure a little bit. I mean, I personally, I think the figure's probably visited Lowland because I think it's a Zonai person. But I don't know. My thought has always just been, if it's a new person and the Zonai things are everywhere, it's probably a Zonai.
Yeah.
So the thing is, the Zonai were always, they always loved, like the animals of the world. They loved, your owls, your rabbits, your whatever. It looks like a rabbit's head, though it looks a bit odd. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I personally think it's going to be a Zonai. It's very speculative, obviously. But I think it'll be a Zonai goddess, and I've publicly said that a few times. It's a little bit scary.
Yeah. In a video that I recorded with Daniel, Cap Bergerson, I talked about a point where the Sheikah Guardians actually started out as just an idea. There wasn't the backstory for all the Sheikah tech yet. It was just an idea for a large-scale enemy. It even started as an Octorok, actually, but they thought that looked a bit weird. So they made the Guardians, and that was it. That was all they were at that point. The whole Sheikah tech backstory wasn't there, but it developed into that. It developed into something huge, which eventually became a massive plot point in Breath of the Wild. The whole Sheikah tech and how that f***ed up. Which kind of proves how the Zonai were such a minuscule part of Breath of the Wild, but that proves how they could potentially go on to be something absolutely massive. Like, the Guardians started as like a minuscule idea, but they turned into basically a massive tie-in to the whole plot. Then to the Zonai, they were pretty minuscule in Breath of the Wild in the grand scheme of things, but in Tears of the Kingdom they appear to be massive. And going on that, it would make sense for this mysterious figure to be Zonai. It just can't, like, it fits perfectly. Like, if Nintendo were to come out today, or tonight, and say, yep, this person's Zonai, I wouldn't bat an eye. I'd be like, yep, sounds good, fits the game, fits the story.
But I think we've covered everything on the figure and the Zonai there. I mean, there's probably more we could say, but we'd need to script a 3-hour-long documentary, like...
That seems like a good point to segue into the next point, which is actually the ending of the game plot. And we get there so suddenly, or at least it feels sudden, just because how like open the game is right now and how speculative it is. But the ending of the game's story is still, and probably honestly up until release, it still will be massively unknown. It's just, the game shows so much potential for what can happen, that I feel like the question of how does this end kind of goes unnoticed in a way.
I think the thing is, when it comes to the game, it's at this really weird point where Skyward Sword came out before Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild is at the very end of the timeline, just at the minute anyway. It's at the very end of the timeline.
Yeah.
The devs have just gone, yeah, it's end of the timeline. And obviously, the thing is, by the time that the developers have said that, they know Tears of the Kingdom is a thing. They know that's coming. Even when the game released, the DLC would have been mostly complete by that point, so they probably would have been getting onto Breath of the Wild 2 Tears of the Kingdom around about that point, which means they would have been getting onto the storyboarding of the next game, more than likely.
Yeah, I'd say it's a safe assumption.
So I think just it's in this point where Demise could come back in a way, and I think that's where people are, like this Ganondorf, this incarnation, from the shots that we've, like from that one shot that we've had of him like rehydrated, where he's really buff. He looks like Demise. I mean, even now, I can admit he looks like Demise.
The Shadows cast.
Yeah, but it's definitely Ganondorf. Like, as a character, it is definitely Ganondorf. But it does pose the question of whether this is going to be the end of the timeline. If this, the problem is this is the end of the timeline. The very, very end at the minute. Obviously, that could change after this game. So the problem is the game going to finish off the timeline, but then go back and, add in more Varti elements and, more areas where, other enemies came in and Ganondorf came in as well?
Yeah.
We don't know. Mm-hmm. I'd really love if they went back and decided, this is the end of this timeline, but this time we're really going to try and, have a continuity where Hyrule changes in each game. They're not always open world games, obviously, but they're a 3D game and a 2D game. But that's my 2 cents, because I know a lot of people probably really want the timeline to stick around.
Yeah.
But I'd like a more cohesive timeline, personally. I know that really isn't anything to do with Demise, but I think bringing him back at the end of the game as your Dark Beast Ganon.
Yeah. And at how it started, kind of thing.
You finish off Ganon, and it... this Ganon is a form that we've never seen, where his hatred is probably as bad as Demise's was.
Yeah. It's got malice involved. Pure evil.
Yeah. Ganondorf's malice at this point, is pure evil, is probably greater than that of Demise's at the start of the timeline, because, Demise has been doing it for a little while. This Ganondorf, especially if it's Twilight Princess's Ganondorf as well, and Ocarina of Time's Ganondorf, and, then that's a character that's been through so much, that it has way more hatred than Demise probably ever could, though we don't know how many years spanned before Skyward Sword started up. So I think it would be a good way to end the timeline, but I also wouldn't be adverse to it just, starting up like a new chapter to the timeline.
Yeah. Going straight to the timeline thing, because that's kind of what's on my mind initially. I could definitely see Tears of the Kingdom ending the timeline as we currently know it, and starting something new, like you mentioned. A sort of new timeline that's a lot more with the actual timeline in mind, because the developers have said so many times that we don't really think about the story that much at first. They think about the gameplay and how the game will actually work first, and then they tie the story elements into the overall picture. And that's why the timeline that we currently know is the way it is. And I just feel like if they sort of wrap that up with Tears of the Kingdom, they can go forward with something much more streamlined, I guess you could say. Something where every game will have a proper tie-in. And I feel like that's just something that naturally came with the old, the current timeline, with how game development worked. I think something people sometimes forget is that, a lot of those games were made in, the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s. It wasn't that big a deal for all these games to link up at first. Yeah. For example, the first 3 games were all 8-bit and 16-bit. They were just games. They didn't really have big developed stories. They did within themselves, but it wasn't intention for it all to connect the way it did at first.
I think the story of the game has insane potential.
Yeah. That's a pretty good way to put it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Me personally, I don't have much more to say on the whole ending of the game plot, and that kind of comes from there not being a lot of stuff to actually go off of.
I think, have we covered as much as we can at the minute?
I think
it's hard to speculate on the story. Drink responsibly, obviously, but I don't think we would have had most of our opinions, to be fair, if it wasn't for drink.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good way of getting some of our opinions out there that we probably wouldn't have got out there usually. And I think it's fun for us as well, because it opens us up a bit more. Obviously, we talk on call a lot, but normally it's not about Zelda too much, unless
sometimes it's planned to be about Zelda, but it never goes that way. We end up talking about anything and everything else.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Rocket League. Yeah, but I think obviously, if you got to this point in the video, well done. But I think it's a good way of showing our opinions. I know a lot of people, some people in the comments, might be a little bit annoyed that we've been drinking. But I think that this is for entertainment purposes, and that only. Tonight we wouldn't have drank if it wasn't for the entertainment. I know that much because we talk a lot.
Yes. Agreed.
So I think for sure. Yeah, that's kind of my point. I think we. Yeah, I don't know. I think
what we were trying to get to is to drop a like down below if you enjoyed, and consider subscribing. Shout out to all the channel supporters, and if you'd like to see this again post Tears of the Kingdom release, then let us know. Anyway, now for our goodbyes. Thanks
for having me on the channel, Adam. Love you. Okay, cool.
Yep. Thanks for watching. Drink responsibly. Cheers. That's a good enough outro.
Yeah, that's a good outro. Right, okay, we'll stop recording.
That's as bad as yesterday when you were